Hi, my name is Pavan Gill, and my group members include Greta Figueroa, Juan Guzman, and Lucas Boehm, and our presentation is against animal testing. History and background. Animal testing has been used all throughout history. They have even been described in ancient Greek writings. For example, early Greek scientists such as Aristotle and Eratosthenes performed experiments on living animals. A Greek physician, Galen, conducted experiments on animals to advance the understanding of anatomy, physiology, pathology, and pharmacology. In fact, Galen would tell his students to vivisect the animals without feeling remorseful. William Harvey, an English physician, discovered that the heart circulates blood throughout the body by experimenting on live animals. There wasn't very much public opposition to animal testing until the 19th century, when adoption of domestic pets increased, which caused interest in the anti-vivisection movement. History and background continued. Thus began the creation of animal rights groups such as the Society for the Protection of Animals Liable to Vivisection in 1875. Queen Victoria was also an early opponent of animal testing. Animals have also been used for space and military. The first living creature to orbit the Earth was a stray dog named Laika, who died early on in the mission. U.S. Department of Defense used 488,237 animals for research and training in the year 2007. More laws protecting animals were passed, such as the Animal Welfare Act, which regulates the treatment of animals in research facilities. Ethical aspects. Those for animal testing say it is helpful towards furthering medical science, but those against animal testing believe it is inhumane and cruel, and other alternatives can be found. So these two ideas are on opposite ends of the spectrum, and in the middle of the spectrum, there are those who accept experimentation on some animals and aim to avoid the unnecessary use of animals in research by looking for alternatives. Some animal right groups who are specifically focused on animal testing include American Anti-Vivisection Society, Center for Alternatives to Animal Testing, Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, and etc. Cultural and sociological importance. Like I said before, some religions are against animal testing. Modern Christians were different than traditional Christians regarding animal suffrage. Traditional Christians didn't acknowledge animal suffering. They believe animals were inferior to humans and deserved little moral consideration, because humans have a soul and reason, and animals don't have either. However, not all leading Christians were against animals. Some saints were respectful towards animals. Saint Francis of Assisi would preach to birds and became the most popular pro-animal Christian figure. Modern Christians, on the other hand, didn't believe in the idea that animals and nature exist to serve humanity. They believed that God's ideal world means both animals and humans living in harmony. Modern Christians are more sympathetic towards animals than traditional Christians were. Cultural and sociological importance continued. Buddhists permit animal testing only if the experiment is for a good purpose, if there is no other alternative, if the experiment is designed to do as little harm as possible, and treating the animals kindly and respectfully. Hinduism and Jainism hold animals and nature as sacred, and humans are not held above any other living creature. These are only some of the religions, but most major religions see animals as equals and believe they should be treated with compassion and dignity. Current events. The U.S. Department of Agriculture has recently been exposed for breeding kittens for research purposes and then killing them afterwards. They have been using cats for research on the Toxoplasma gondii parasite since 1982. In this experiment, 2-month-old kittens are fed raw meat contaminated with the parasite. Once the parasite reproduces inside the kitten's intestines, the kittens shed oocysts in their feces. The researchers collect the feces for a few weeks, and then the cat is euthanized after they're done with them. The FDA recently shut down an experiment on nicotine addiction that would use squirrel monkeys as test subjects. In this experiment, the monkeys were self-administering nicotine doses by pulling a lever until they were addicted. This study began in 2014, but by the summer of 2017, 4 monkeys had already died. Aside from terrible current events, there are also some good ones. Coty, a major beauty company, has partnered up with Cruelty Free International to try to end animal testing for cosmetics globally. A first major achievement for this partnership was the Leaping Bunny certification by Cruelty Free International for CoverGirl, who became the largest makeup brand to be awarded this certification. This award is a globally recognized commitment to cruelty-free products. The brand supply chain and ingredients were examined, and it was concluded that CoverGirl products and ingredients are not tested on animals. Cons of animal testing. The most common known con of animal testing is that it's cruel and inhumane. These animals are exposed to force feeding, forced inhalation, food and water deprivation, infliction of burns or other wounds, neck breaking, decapitation, etc. To evaluate irritation, some cosmetic companies apply the Draize eye test, in which the eyelids of rabbits are clipped open, sometimes for multiple days. There are now alternatives for animal testing. For example, in vitro testing can produce more accurate results than animal testing since actual human cells are used. Another example of this is using artificial human skin, which is made from human skin cells grown in test tubes or plastic balls. Using artificial human skin to test chemicals is actually more effective than using animal skin. Animals are very different from us. Their metabolic, anatomic, and cellular differences make them poor models for humans. Cons of animal testing continued. Some drugs may not have a negative effect on animals, but may negatively impact humans. Thalidomide, a sleeping pill, was tested on animals before its commercial release, but ended up causing 10,000 babies to be born with severe deformities. The Animal Welfare Act doesn't cover 95% of animals, including rats, mice, fish, and birds, so that 95% is basically unprotected in facilities. The Animal Welfare Act has not done anything to prevent the terrible cases of animal abuse in laboratories. Some drugs that are effective in animals fail in humans. Over 100 stroke drugs that were effective when tested on animals failed in humans. Cons of animal testing continued. Animal tests are more expensive than the alternative methods. According to PETA, about $56.4 billion of government funds were spent on animal experiments. Many experiments are flawed. A lot of the experiments failed to randomize a selection of animals and did not use blinding. Both are meant to reduce researcher bias. Flawed experiments waste the lives of the animals since they have to endure so much during the testing, all for poor research. And last but not least, some religions are also against animal testing and insist that humans should be merciful and not inflict pain upon them. So overall, our informed opinion and summary. In conclusion, we are against animal testing for all the reasons we stated and talked about in this presentation. I'll recap some of those ideas once again. The main reason to be against animal testing is because it is cruel and inhumane. As humans, we need to show more compassion and respect towards animals. There is an Animal Welfare Act, but that doesn't even account for 95% of animals. We cannot just protect a few animals and leave the rest to suffer. More must be done to protect the rights of the other animals not protected under this act. There are alternatives for animal testing, such as in vitro testing and the usage of artificial human skin, which also tends to be more accurate and effective than testing of animals. Like I said before, animals can be very different from us. Some drugs that are tested on animals may not work on humans, and even worse, some drugs that tested positively on animals may have a negative impact on humans, which can cause abnormalities and even death. For these reasons, we stand tall against animal testing.